crazy oogling me there for a minute. I don't know, I guess people are amazed by the 3-axis gimbal. It's warming up a bit. It was in the high 40s today, so spring is on the way. We've got daylight savings, so a little sunlight later in the day. And the best news is an international terror organization has been expelled. Well, the leader of it at Columbia University, the leader of Hamas, has been expelled. And people are going to say, oh, free speech, this is, you can't shut down protests and blah, blah, blah. By the way, I absolutely support the right of violent, ignorant morons to have freedom of speech. But that doesn't include acting on their violent tendencies or threatening and intimidating people. That is not freedom of speech. And we've seen that happening a lot, surrounding people on campus and poking flags and sticks in people's faces. Even if you don't actually injure them, it's still assault. See, the NYPD are idiots because they are very familiar with the criminal assault statute. And yes, that is what prompts them to arrest someone. But the point of the matter is, in the form of a civil tort, merely advancing towards someone in the state of New York and imparting upon them the feeling that they are going to be injured. You don't have to injure them. That is assault. So when Uniska Wahala Kano, also known as Crackhead Barney, repeatedly advances towards me with sharp sticks in her hand, that is an assault. And it's my feeling that the police didn't do anything yesterday to stop her because she works with them, or for them, or in some capacity cooperates, because she always seems to be around those community affairs officers, which Sal told me was some division that was created by Eric Adams. Sal also separately told me that they have this agenda where they want to control the narrative. Now, I don't know if people remember, it was months ago, that I was assaulted in a similar way. There was a riot, an unplanned, unpermitted protest happening outside FIT, the Fashion Institute of Technology, which is also a college. And I was just walking home. I live on 7th Avenue. That college is 2-3 blocks from my apartment. I've been paying taxes there for 25 years. So as far as whose streets are streets, these assholes don't pay for them, so how are they theirs? It's certainly more mine than it is theirs. I have a right to walk home on my own street. But anyway, people might recall there was a medium complexion guy there who had I should have pulled the video to show it for everybody again, but you can see it. The guy had one of those, I don't know what you call it, the scarf, and he was very, very carefully covering his face with it, like diligently, to the extent that action drew my attention. This guy's driving the wrong way on the bike, almost crashed right into me. I don't think that's a two-way bike lane. And a two-way bike lane next to a one-way sidewalk is a stupid thing. Anyway, the guy was lunging a stick at me. Have the cops instructed people that you can taunt targets that we want to arrest by doing things that should be assault, that a police officer should tell you, you have to step away, stop doing that, and instruct them, get the hell away from this person, rather than standing there and doing nothing like those cops did until I insisted? Was she screaming and making noise? By the way, that's also not allowed in protest. All that ruckus, you're not allowed to violate the law There are noise ordinances and all kinds of things that if the cops wanted to stop that, they could. So the point that I'm trying to make is, that was a show over there yesterday with crackhead Barney, and the cops call their buddy Olya Scootercaster to get her in there so that they can get the video clips that they'll put on the New York Post website, and then that can kind of go, around the country and let everybody know you shouldn't buy a Tesla. Everybody's angry at Elon Musk. You're gonna have something painted on your car if you get a Tesla. Now, what's going on here? We got some kind of, what is this? So I think that was a show. I think so many of these protests that we've seen are shows. And everyone says, oh, paid protesters. Yes, but that's not all. They're paid protesters, but isn't it one thing if some political action committee pays protesters and another entirely if the police are secretly supporting it? I mean, listen, maybe I'm wrong, okay? This is speculation. This is my conjecture, my conclusion based on looking at public domain evidence. You might look at the same evidence and come to a different conclusion, but let's just say for a minute I'm right. Let's say crackhead Barney works for the police and she's undercover. They don't want you to know that someone who is engaged in arguably indecent exposure. I described to the guy. Now, if a woman went to the cops and said somebody stuck a device inside his body somewhere that you wouldn't want going near you, and then chased them around and assaulted them with that, this is the new trend. Park bathrooms have gotten cleaned up and they're fancy. They have tiles in there now, and then someone's actually cleaning it. I used the Bryant Park bathroom a week or 2 or 3 ago. I couldn't believe it. It was like the bathroom at a restaurant. That's a worthwhile effort, but by the way, part of the way you're going to achieve that is by not allowing homeless vagrants to move into those things. And then there's going to be a whole separate group that's going to say, all right, that's, you can't do that. You got to allow homeless vagrants to create a biological hazard inside there. Anyway, that guy who was at the protest, who was sticking the sticks in my face, I got a very good video of him because I zoomed all the way in, and in one moment when his thing that he was carefully putting over his mouth dropped down, we could see his whole entire face. Now, I didn't catch this when it happened, but in looking back into it this morning, I've just learned that in February, just a few weeks ago, our buddy Victor Parra, 31, he was convicted. He's the ringleader of snatching 2 cell phones, and now he's been apprehended. So this is the guy, and I saw this in the newspaper maybe the following day. It was pure coincidence, actually, because, when he got arrested and when he was over there, it was all within a couple days. And just, I don't even know how I saw it, but I saw it in the New York Post, and I said, holy cow, that looks like the guy who attacked me. And by the way, the cops were all around. They told me to leave. They said I should leave, even though I was just standing on a sidewalk calmly, and they were all acting like maniacs, surrounding me, threatening me, intimidating me, poking a Palestinian flag toward me with the point coming very close to my eye. Somebody could have slipped. Somebody could have deliberately shoved it in my eye. Anyway, the point is, if crackhead Barney works for the police, So then the next day, people might have seen, I saw a police lieutenant on the street, and I said, Lieutenant, can I show you this photo? And I showed him the photo that I took of the guy dropping down his scarf. Then I showed him that photo of Victor Parra, and he said it was an uncanny resemblance. It's quite obviously the same exact guy. So how did he get from Rikers Island to that protest within days? And also, if you're from Venezuela and you've just been to jail, are you going to hang out someplace where all the cops are to protest for Palestine? Does Venezuela care at all in general about Palestine? Or did they just say, hey, you have dark skin and kinky hair, throw this thing on, get into the mix, and we're going to stage a protest, and then we're going to keep people like Jason out, and we're going to let people like Olya Scootercaster in, and we're going to make up some bullshit story about you and your friends stealing cell phones, or maybe you actually stole cell phones, and we're going to help you stay out of jail because now you're going to work for us. Now, this undercover police work thing, it's a very difficult subject because obviously criminals are smart, some of them. Catching them is hard. I don't have experience as a police officer, I'm sure. There's a litany of aspects to undercover work that I don't understand and haven't contemplated, but it involves telling a cop, you're going to go out and do crimes. Or getting an informant like this guy, Victor Parra, and saying, hey, we'll make a deal. We'll let you do certain crimes to help us catch people doing other crimes. Now, is one of those certain crimes poking Jason in the eye and making him blind? Maybe they haven't specifically authorized him to do that, but I bet you if it happened while he was doing something they did authorize him to do, it wouldn't be handled in a way. Look, there's no way. If someone pokes your eye out, how are you going to handle that in a way that you'd be satisfied? The issue is you wouldn't. And these idiot cops are so upset when one of them gets hurt, but they don't give a shit if anything is happening to you. I guarantee if you went up to a cop and wave a stick in their face, you're getting arrested right away. If you did that shit that crackhead Barney was doing to me, to a cop, you would get your skull cracked in a hot minute. And I'm pretty sure I saw that idiot before who I was talking to making faces at me. He was clearly listening to what I was saying when I said crackhead Barney works for him, and he went like this. Whose fucking kid is this? Where are these kids' fathers? You the parents of these fucking animals? Wind them up, you stupid idiot. Get your fucking kids under control. Fucking idiots. People think they own New York City. First of all, if you're visiting, not at all. Second of all, if you live here, we're sharing it with everybody. So, none of that crap.
I don't know.
So, okay, we know that that guy there, he's dressed up as a Hamas supporter, but he's from Venezuela. What was he doing there? Why do the police act so strangely when I ask them about him? And what else are they doing with potentially undercover protesters? So that takes me to the latest thing where we saw this morning that somebody has been expelled from Colombia. This guy who was the head of whatever kind of Hamas organization they have at Colombia. But, you know, it's... you should not be able to have a club for a terrorist organization at a college. And secondarily, the college is not public. You're paying to be there. It's a semi-private thing, and they don't... What the hell is that guy smiling about? The point is, there's a difference between the property behind the gates of Columbia and this public sidewalk. I'm not a lawyer, I don't know the exact legal difference, but Columbia certainly has the ability to make rules. And if they say, hey, protests on campus aren't allowed or are allowed under these strict regulations, you know, they can dictate that. And the fact, look, protest is fine. Free speech is a must, but free speech does not allow you to demand the death or incite other people to violence for a person, to surround someone in the way that people did. Like, honestly, the second one person is standing there and gets surrounded by a group, That is when the NYPD needs to come over and say, break up, don't surround this person, you're free to protest, but you are not allowed to make a group around a person and threaten and intimidate them and close in on them and lunge at them. Why do the police allow them to do that? It's the same reason that if you saw a guy selling drugs on the street and that guy was working undercover with the $100 bag of drugs to try to catch the kingpin, the police are also allowing that person to break the law. They know the person is breaking the law. They've asked the person to break the law. So they're not very well going to arrest their own undercover operatives or their own informants, not on purpose at least. And the reason those idiots are all standing there so close to Crackhead Barney and Ezra Frisch and Walter Masterson and all of those fucking idiots who work for the police is because their purpose is to antagonize people like me, so that a fight happens and the police can crack my skull and it looks like they're doing something. So they control the protest. That seems to be the approach. Now, people are like, oh, you know, it's not a Hamas protest, it's a pro-Palestine protest. And they're not terrorists and blah, 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 blah. Well, you're wrong. It is support for a terrorist organization. Hamas is a terrorist organization, and frankly, even just wearing this outfit should be grounds for arrest. You should not be allowed to present in public on any day other than October 31st wearing a mask like that and a hood, because that is a disguise for a criminal to hide their identity. This guy doesn't look like he's afraid of getting COVID. He looks like a terrorist to me, and you might say, oh no, he's not a terrorist and Hamas isn't a terrorist organization. But you know, it's not my determination that it's a terrorist organization. This is the website for the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, and they say that Hamas is a terrorism organization. It's an acronym for that right there. Here's their flag. Whoops. That's the flag. Okay, and you can go to the DNI webpage right now and see everything they have to say about Hamas, but let's see what our friend, look at what's that on his phone. Oh, it's the Hamas flag. So the Director of National Intelligence, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence says this guy is a terrorist. What is he doing inciting violence masked on a college campus? He should be arrested immediately. Okay? So even if not every Palestinian is a terrorist, that is not a peaceful protest. And being in mask, like, that's what we need, is rules for protests. If there's some sort of pandemic or virus around such that you can't be at the protest without a mask, too bad, because there's no masks at protests. And if you are too afraid to show your face in public, then you're not here to protest. Go away. Now, the other reason I wanted to come out here is that I saw either online or something, there was like a giant inflatable Kim Kardashian here in Times Square, and it struck me as so odd that oh, wait, we've frozen. I hope I didn't lose. Oh man. Hang on now, let's see if we can get this back. This is a pain when this happens. It says warning, disconnecting. Okay, share it and reconnect, please. Please, please. There we go, good. This seems to work sometimes. Let's see if it comes on back. Allow it, yeah. Okay, I think it's back. Is it? It's black. Nope, there it is, okay. Tell you what is going on. Maybe it's just more people with cell phones. I don't know. dead friend Zoe. I don't know, we got a real bad connection in Times Square today. Maybe it's new police equipment that they're installing around New York City. I don't really know, but the phone is working terribly now. I don't know, do we have a giant Kim Kardashian anywhere here? So my point is, college is for going to college. I personally think there should be no protests allowed on campus. If they say no, that restricts students' free speech. I mean, you could step right off campus and do whatever you want. That way, if somebody doesn't want to participate in the protest and just wants to go to college, they don't have to be subjected to it. By the way, the other issue is we've got some student in UCLA who they were obstructing his access to class, blocking him from going where he's going. That's harassment. That's intimidation. That's not protest. And then people will say, oh, well, you know, Israelis do the same thing, and, you know, they took these hostages because Israel takes hostages. So when they returned these dead babies who were like 1 and 3, I saw in the news, I haven't seen it personally, maybe this is a lie, I haven't heard anybody debunk it, but they wrote on the caskets, you know, arrested October 7th or whatever, something like that, saying that they were arrested to equate the arrest of, you know, bomb vest and other young militants who were arrested by the IDF or the Israeli police or whatever. They get arrested and they'll show you a video of, you know, a 14-year-old Palestinian kid who's emaciated in jail. And that's the justification that I've seen being given for going and snatching young girls out of a concert and babies from their mothers' houses, killing the mother, killing the baby. They think that's a legitimate arrest. And by the way, just because you show me a 14-year-old or even a 12-year-old in jail, it's not the same. 2 or 3 days ago, I think this might have been in New Jersey or Pennsylvania, a 14-year-old kid shot 2 cops, one of them died. And I mean, you see some of these 14-year-old kids, they look like they're 12 or 10. I mean, they look like little infants. I mean, not infants.
Joy than for you, neighbor, to turn to him.
Not infants like a 3-year-old, but I'm saying, yeah, you take a picture, it's like with Trayvon Martin, right? You take a picture of him when he's 14, and he looks like an innocent little kid. 2 years later, when he's 16 with his knees on Zimmerman's chest, punching him in the face, I think Zimmerman got a little bit of a different impression. So it's the same thing. Here's one of these 3D corner billboards. It's a great illusion. Wow, it looks super realistic from right here. It's a fantastic optical illusion. But my point is, the Israel, and then they say, oh, it's genocide. Well, you see, when you go and attack a concert filled with civilians and pull them out and start raping them and killing them, it's an act of war. So when war gets declared on you and your whole city is getting bombed, kids are going to get killed. I'm not saying that's good. I'm not saying I want that. I'm just saying this is not an equivalent. And you know, this is such a broad topic. It can go in so many different directions, but the fact of the matter is, what's happening at Columbia and Trump cutting off the federal funding, that absolutely needs to happen at every single college around. They either need to have guidelines for protesting, that anybody who does anything remotely violent or intimidates any individual on campus should be immediately expelled, 0 tolerance, no questions asked, you're just out. It's kind of a thick Spider-Man. I don't know, people don't seem to understand anything. They just want to do whatever they want to do. Crackhead Barney thinks she can, I mean, how reprehensible is that that woman is just going around doing all that stuff? What the fuck is this idiot doing? Ridiculous. police are asleep at the wheel. It's terrible. So let's see. I mean, did I have anything else I wanted to show everybody? I guess that's it for the video content for today. I'm going to be joined by Charles later. He's overseas, as people know. Uh-oh. It says Iran rejects talks with the U.S. I don't know why they want to get into a war with Iran, but I mean, that's the other thing to keep in mind. That when we have these fake Hamas members and somebody's saying like, oh, Iran is paying for Hamas. Okay, I don't know, maybe not. But it's, we see the police doing one thing that we know is false. The biggest question I have about October 7th is, if Mossad is so smart and so great, how did they not see hang gliders coming over? How did this happen? And then people will say like, because Israel, they paid Hamas and they wanted this to happen. Well, I mean, the same is said of the United States for 9/11. That it was known, that it was encouraged, that it was even done by elements of the United States. A lot of people watching will say, no, it was Israel, 5 dancing Israelis. I can't believe how stupid and gullible people are who think that because 5 Israeli guys were arrested dancing outside a van, that piece of information means that Israel did all of 9/11. They do not consider that any person at all, aliens from Mars, could have done 9/11, and if they wanted all those gullible Jew-hating morons like Ian Carroll to believe that it was Israel, all the Martians would have to do is hire those 5 Israelis and tell them, make sure you go somewhere real visible in New Jersey and dance around so that people see you. Then get in that same van and drive on the highway through the Lincoln Tunnel, and then, make sure cameras and cops and everybody sees you. Because I'm sure that's the way high-level secret agencies like Mossad do things. They wouldn't have the 5 guys who are carrying out their sinister international plan disband and all go in different directions. They wouldn't have them abandon the van that they used to arrive at the place and each leave in a different vehicle. They wouldn't do any of the things that you would do if you were trying to hide the fact that you just engaged in an act of war. No, you would dance around in the middle of the street in a neighborhood in New Jersey to make sure that people saw you. You might even have somebody involved who's the person who calls the police and says, hey, look, there's a bunch of guys dancing around over there, in the same exact way that George and his idiot brother set up a scheme where they called me up and said, hey, there's radiological material on a boat. And then somebody called the port. I'm not so sure if they prompted that somebody. They wanted me to do the calling, I think. But you could easily envision a version of a similar plan where you set something up and then deliberately had someone bring it to the attention of the police to blame it on those people over there. In fact, I don't know how a truly intellectual person could put that very realistic probability out of their mind and arrive at the conclusion that 5 dancing Israelis being arrested means Israel did 9/11. It is almost a de facto proof that you have to be predisposed to hating Jewish people and blaming everything on Jews in Israel. It's almost that stupid. I can't tell you how many people think that. And the same thing with the USS Liberty. I don't deny that Israeli pilots shot it down. I don't deny that the survivors, some of which I think are still alive, saw Israeli jets and have heard things on the radio and this and that. Obviously, Israeli jets sank the ship, but it was Lyndon Johnson's idea to sink the USS Liberty to create outrage among the public, to build sentiment for a war in Egypt because they wanted to control the Middle East and control oil, which is exactly what they've been endeavoring to do since then. And Lyndon Johnson was a treacherous scumbag. That explanation makes sense. The notion that a 20-something-year-old nation that relied so heavily on the United States of America politically, militarily, economically, the fact that of its own accord it would just go and bomb and destroy the ship, that makes zero sense. That makes zero sense whatsoever. What makes sense is that Israel does what the United States or whoever directs the United States to do. You know? And I don't know who that is. It's a globalist. And then you say that, and then the geniuses will come into the comments and say, yeah, the Jews. So there's a lot of stupidity around that there's really kind of no way to fight, it seems. Most Canadians can't stand Trudeau, John Harmon tells us. Well, he's leaving today, I think. So that's good. Right, LBJ's idea to kill Kennedy. Brian McNamara says LBJ's grandmother was Jewish. So what? What does that mean? That he's beholden to Israel to destroy a U.S. ship and say, oh, we better cover this up. And, you know, I mean, it just makes no sense. All the Jew-hating people in the world can come up with every explanation in the world that they want. But the bottom line is it just doesn't make sense. The only explanation that makes sense is that it was a U.S. plan to start a war. We know they had Operation Northwoods, and the notion of the United States intelligence agencies doing murderous acts that would kill American citizens in order to create a pretext for a war with Cuba. We know they wanted to do that. Why do we think they wouldn't do that with Egypt? I just don't understand. And then, by the way, all the people who, and let's be clear, I don't like the idea that anti-Israel speech can get you into trouble. You should be able to do a podcast, have a meeting, hold a protest, do whatever in a contained, controlled area. I think if the rules on campus were no flags, no selfie sticks, no poles, no weapons, no masks, no bags, the First Amendment doesn't give you a right to protest in a mask. The First Amendment doesn't mandate that you have to have a flag. It doesn't mandate that you are allowed to amplify sound. You shouldn't be allowed to do that. Blast bullhorns in people's ears and faces. All of this is assault, and the police are allowing it to happen. Is this Elon Musk? No swastikas painted here. It's a gigantic vehicle, isn't it? I mean, you would hate it if you got hit by this thing. Pointy as hell, right? Now it says Foundation. That's the super expensive one. That's the first edition. Is that yours?
Yes, of course.
See, I'm not trying to bother that vehicle. I'm just observing it. Oh, now what's this? This is that other hotel. See, so people have been saying, oh, did they close? Or is it? No, we're not near that other hotel yet. That's further down. Spitting in the street. What the hell is this? This is some kind of gang hanging out waiting to deliver stuff. This fucking guy yelling at me. Even that. What are these guys doing? At a certain point, you're not allowed to just have a bunch of people congregate without permits and stuff. I mean, there's rules about how these things can be done. And the cops are not, they're sending a message to everybody around here, and that is, do whatever the hell you want. It's very, very dangerous. Let's see what people are saying in the comments here. People are excited to see Trudeau hit the bricks. Hello from Niagara, Betty. Hello to Niagara. Toaster on wheels. Yeah, my mother says it looks like a refrigerator. It's sort of true. It looks like my refrigerator. I have a stainless steel refrigerator like that. Right, so someone's saying Zionism and Albert Pike. Well, last night, Lee, I'll tell you, Lee was really in top form last night. His health is improving, his stamina is improving, and his thoughts were so organized last night. This is a subject he knows quite a bit about, talking about the beginnings of Zionism. And it wasn't Albert Pike, it was, Lee said the guy's name. I'm forgetting it right now, but people can go back there and watch it. If you're not a sponsor, get onto odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth. crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com or subscribestar.com or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. That is a huge button, isn't it, Tiny Elvis? Oh yeah, speaking of Tiny Elvis, which was when Saturday Night Live was funny, Tiny Elvis was Plaid Man. Look at that. Is that Elon Musk? Tiny Elvis was, who's that guy with the hair plugs from National? Nicolas Cage? Yeah, he was Tiny Elvis. But last night, Saturday Night Live had some kind of Lady Gaga satanic, I guess this must be a plaid. Is it Elon Musk driving in there?
You also do see like California houses too.
Doesn't look like it. But is it a plaid? Yeah, he's got the plaid thing on the back. Yeah.
No, I'm here for my
No, it wasn't started by the Jesuits. It was British guy. I forget his name. Lord something or other. And then Lee goes way, way back to where, like Christianity would not allow money lending, it was considered usury, I guess. Well, I don't know the details of that, but the Jewish religion did not have a preclusion on money lending. So the Jews back in those ancient times were necessary for transacting certain stuff in court or something. I don't know. Lee had all the details, but this guy's crazy. He's looking at the bikes because he's worried about denting his car, but he doesn't care about hitting people. But Lee had it all right there. An Irishman established the IDF. I don't know anything about any of that. I mean, look, Israel to me is a country like any other. People who are like, oh, it's stolen land. Welcome to planet Earth. Every single established country here, that's how it came about. Somebody showed up at some point and was like, wow, what a nice country you have. We're going to kill you and take it. I'm not condoning that. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just stating a fact. How did we get this country? How did any country come about? Somebody went there, killed most of everybody, and took the place over. So, okay, Palestinians might say, oh, well, now we're going to do that, take it back. Listen, they're welcome to do it, but then don't be upset when your whole city gets blown up. Then there's the other thing where people are saying, okay, they did October 7th in order to do the blowing up. I guess that's possible. I don't know. I mean, where does that end? Where does it, why did they take the money? If they know that, then say, no, we're not going to let you build Hamas and do terror, and they fell for it or something. I don't know what the answer is. All I care about is no Hamas terrorists in New York City. Even wearing that thing should be grounds for the police to stop you and question you and say, hey, you're involved with a known terror organization. According to the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, you are broadcasting your affiliation with an international terror organization. Why is that not grounds, at least for interrogation? Every single person on that college campus who's wearing that It should be prohibited. And you know what? There would be nothing wrong with that. You can't walk around, if you went to class every day in a stripper outfit and a bikini and a G-string, I'm sure they'd say something, so they have some regulation of what you are and are not allowed to wear. I just, maybe it's freedom of speech. Maybe you're allowed to wear it, but if you're broadcasting through freedom of speech that you support terrorism, look, there's a lot of things that you could do with freedom of speech that are going to get you fired and kicked out of places. You could choose to exercise that right. That's a debate I'm willing to have. Where the line gets crossed is when people take physical action. You should not be able to have amplification of sound. You should not be able to have sticks and poles and flags. You should not be allowed to wear a mask. There's a lot of rules that need to govern that. On a college campus, it's not the same as public. You don't have the right to obstruct somebody else from going to class or from appearing on campus being Jewish. You don't have the right to surround people and intimidate them. So many police need to be fired. The behavior of the police yesterday was terrible. They're not going to arrest her. The second I go up there and make any kind of report, they're just going to start harassing and antagonizing me even more. I mean, this situation is so bad. The lawsuit against the police got dismissed. One of the arguments I made in there was that maybe 2 or 3 days after the assault, I went to the police station with a photograph of my neck with red fingerprints on it. And I said to the guy, when you guys did your investigation, you didn't look at my neck, you didn't take this evidence. I want to supplement the report. He said there is no report, there was no assault. And what I understand now is they did not record assault on a ticket. They didn't charge anybody with assault. So they have just stipulated the reality that there was no assault, even though I have, excuse me, ladies, off the sidewalk with the bicycles. Off the sidewalk with the bicycle. Ride it back to China. Now, what are we doing here? Relaunching soon. Maybe it's Mercedes clothing? I don't know. But we'll hear more from Charles tonight at 8. I don't know. What do people think about all this? You know, everybody loves Hamas so much. Go there. I just, we can't have people wearing masks, people supporting international terrorist organizations, people intimidating college students as they try to go about their business on campus. What kind of transaction are those guys doing? So, the other thing to keep in mind, and the other general idea, no, it wasn't Elon. I just say that anytime I see a Tesla. But the other thing to keep in mind is that everyone who is defending these students' rights to do these protests, you don't even know that those are legitimately students. If the cops are putting people there, you don't think the CIA is doing that too? What the hell are those people doing there at Columbia? And you know what? The other thing about Columbia is it's a historic flashpoint for revolutionaries. And Hillary Clinton is teaching there. All of Columbia is probably controlled by the CIA. I don't understand how somebody like Ian Carroll or any of these other people who claim to be getting to the bottom of this stuff think that the Hamas protest is the one thing that's authentic. Don't believe all these other lies, but this business over here is true. I saw that, a Palestinian flag on Big Ben. Hamas is a terror organization. That should be declared. They should say that it's just not allowed. If you're going to promote it on campus, you're going to get suspended. You're maybe free to do it elsewhere, but you're not allowed to promote terrorism. You're not allowed to. And so then they're going to say Israel is a terrorist organization. Well, the government hasn't determined that. Okay, so just like marijuana might be legal in New York and get you thrown in jail for 14 years in Russia, if you don't like it that this government thinks Hamas are terrorists and Israel are not, go to Palestine. Simple. If you don't like America, why are we giving you a visa to come here and protest it? Just leave.
Just a side job, just to get back into like.
That's what we should be doing, in my opinion. If your son or daughter goes to college, it's the college. Well, right, yeah, sue the college. When they start having to pay out, I mean, if anybody was injured by any of these protests, by all means, sue the college. But the colleges themselves are a friggin' scam. I mean, these are the same people who are paying $1 million to Claudine Gay, raising their prices like crazy, having $50 billion endowments and still being tax exempt. They're taking your money. That's the other thing. All of this crap that's happening at these colleges, it's being subsidized by your tax dollars. Why should we have to pay for that? For these Hamas idiots. They're supposed to be in college. Drop out or get expelled and go do your protesting. Yeah, I mean, honestly, if I were Trump, I would say, you know what? Any college that wants federal funding, there's just no protesting allowed on a campus that receives, no protesting of any kind allowed on a campus that receives federal funding. You might say, oh, that's unfair. Okay, then have a private university that makes its own rules. But if I'm giving to the tax money and the government is giving money to the school, that's what I want done with my money. All of this is another reason why income tax should be done away with. If you think Columbia is a great thing that deserves your money, go give it. If you're some rich business person who has everything in your life because of Columbia University, give it $10 million a year. I don't want to give it 40 cents, particularly not when I see what they do with it and who they pay and what kind of assholes they're producing and putting out into the world. I'd rather see the whole thing go out of business. Frankly, almost every college professor, academic type person that I deal with, I feel that way about. They're all so entitled and they think they're smarter than you. Yeah, it's 53 right now. It's pretty nice. So tonight with Charles, we're going to talk about Act Blue. A lot of people have been asking about this, and frankly, I've found out some more about it just preparing for this show. And as everybody has surmised, it ties into all of this nonsense. I mean, this is a big, gigantic theft of the wealth of this country, the prosperity of every person in it. You know, this city used to be fantastic. Any day of the week, you could just walk out, go to the park, meet a new friend if you wanted to. Oops, we're freezing again. Yeah, see, something has happened. I think when they added that congestion pricing, see, there's some new radio antenna array around, and I guess it's got something to do with that. Like that pole. Oh look, somebody's shoes are there. I think that usually means drugs are happening. Yeah, anyway, I was thinking about this undercover police stuff. I get a lot of videos from this thing, the infographics show. Did people ever see that? It's quite interesting. The person making it is good at the infographics, and there's a lot of good research there, but this was all about kind of like the history of undercover police work and undercover police stuff gone wrong, where the police become heroin addicts, and in one, The guy got addicted, the undercover guy got addicted to drugs, and then when he was back at the police station, he was stealing drugs from the evidence room and stealing guns, and they walked in there, and he shot and killed 2 cops because he was stealing the drugs. And then at the trial, the guy said he didn't even remember doing it. So this whole undercover, it's a complicated thing. But anyway, become a sponsor if you aren't already. Get onto odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth, where you can still use your regular credit card. It's the most economical way to sponsor the show for as little as $3 a month, plus a 58-cent Odyssey fee. You can also subscribe on crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com and subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. Somebody sent me a message saying they wanted to switch from one plan to another plan. I can't do any of that stuff. I can't interact with your credit card or payments or anything like that. All of that is handled by those websites. I just produce the videos and put them there, and then at the end of the month they send me the payments. See, this is super objectionable. Not only does Amazon use the sidewalk outside my apartment building to stage all their Whole Foods deliveries, they now ride these bicycles on the sidewalk, this huge, dangerous mess. It really, something needs to be done about it. And also, there's a permanent resident over here who's basically moved in. That's strange to me for a homeless person to leave. Like, if you're homeless in New York City, maybe because it's not cold anymore, the guy's abandoning it, but this is like a life or death. Like, you don't usually leave a blanket there. Fucking asshole. I'm telling you, I would just get a whole team of cops, and I would alert these bike riders that if you are on a bicycle on the sidewalk, it's going to be treated like a motor vehicle. And I would authorize the cops to use force to remove people from the bicycle without warning. Anyway, have a great day, everyone. See you tonight with Charles.